off, please have you introduce yourself, Sergeant.
Yeah, I'm Sergeant Christopher Martinez, 26 years old, part of Gulf Battery, 2nd Battalion, 11th Marines. Been here now for almost 3 years. Been ops chiefing for a little over 3 years. From Orange County, California.
And do you have a spelling of the first and last name?
Yes, Charlie, Hotel, Romeo, India, Sierra, Tango, Oscar, Papa, Hotel, Echo, Romeo, Mike, Alpha, Romeo, Tango, India, November, Echo, Zulu.
And so just first question, can you just explain what Gulf Battery is doing out here today?
Gulf Battery. As a battery, we're supporting the regiment and division right now. Training purposes out here in 29 Palms, we're actually basically just getting good training in, you know what I mean? Like we were discussing earlier, there's no better place than 29 Palms for artillery to train. This is one of the few places that I have the least amount of limitations that I can actually do my job. We get out here and we buck off rounds, accurate fires, that's what it's all about.
And can you just tell me a little bit about the FDC, what it is?
The FDC, first of all, we'll start with what it is, Fire Direction Center. The Fire Direction Center, its role in artillery is the brains of the operation. We have our forward observers, our gun line, and the FDC. For the most part, keeping it simple, the FDC is like the buffer between the observers who have eyes on target and then the gun line who puts the rounds on target. So what happens is the FOs will get a location for the individuals that we're trying to hit. The FDC takes that information, which is a grid. We process information, process the mission, give the gun line firing data, deflections and quadrants, and the gun line puts rounds down range.
Awesome. So what would happen if there wasn't an FDC? Would the gun line be able to fire?
There's one way the gun line can fire without FDC, and that's in direct fire. But with direct fire, you're definitely not going to hit the ranges that you can hit with an FDC. Again, the FDC is the buffer. We take the information, put it into the data so the gun line can hit. Obviously, none of us can see our targets besides the FOs. So without the FDC actually being on our FATIDs and calculating data for the guns to hit targets 20, 21 clicks away, not possible.
Awesome, man. Can you just explain a little bit what's inside the FDC, the different components of it, different computers?
Yeah, definitely. As far as components in the FDC, we'll start at our lowest. We have a chart, which is old school manual data. We usually put our PFCs, Lance Corporals, the new Marines, we put them on the chart, just give them a feel. It gives you a better idea of how artillery works. So what happens, we get the grid, it gets plotted on a chart. This way we can see, typically if we have a safety area, we can see if it actually plots within the safety area. From there, the actual place where we get our data now, since we're moving on to a digital world, we have our FATIDs, the Advanced Field Artillery Tactical Data System. With that, again, we give it a grid, put a grid in, we got locations, we have to have accurate location data for our pieces as well as the observers' pieces. A big part is on the FOs as far as giving us accurate target locations. There's a lot of other information we got to put in the FATIDs in order to give us accurate firing data. So once we get the FATIDs, the grid, they get the firing data for us. It's my job to make sure everything's bumping properly. If there's any issues, I'm the technical expert within the FDC. So from there, we also have our radio operator. Our radio operator, he's the buffer between the FO and the FDC. The FO talks directly to the radio operator, who is, again, like I said, has eyes on the target. Our radio operator then gives us the information required to calculate firing data. Our FDO is also in there as the fire direction officer. His job primarily is to pull an altitude for us. He's also the tactical expert as far as how we're going to engage targets, depending on the size of the target and how many rounds we're going to need to engage that target with.
Can you just briefly explain what different kind of rounds do artillery use here today?
Today, like as in modern day, or today is out here? Modern warfare, I mean, we have our HE rounds, high explosive rounds. We also have WP, which is white phosphorus for smoke screens for grunts. If they get in contact, they might call for a smoke screen so they could maneuver if they're pinned down, something like that. My K25 is the same thing. It's also smoke. except for my K25 is going to burst on the ground, whereas WP bursts in the air. We also have a loom, which can be used for numerous ways, whether it's enemy harassment, to keep them on their toes, just knowing that we're out there, we can reach out and touch them. It definitely puts a knot in their stomach, you know what I mean? It's an advantage to us, especially when it's dark outside. You go to Afghanistan, you go to Iraq. It's not like out here where you have lights. So, you know, the grunts on the other end, they're in a firefight, they don't know where contact's coming from, they have a general idea. We put out loom rounds, and a loom round will light up one full click, basically a grid square. And most modern day, actually, we have XCal. XCal rounds, it's a GPS guided round. It can go as far as, actually golf battery, we have the record for the longest round shot in combat, which is 36K. So it's a pretty badass round.
Can you just briefly explain what a firing mission is?
A fire mission. Pretty much everything I said so far is really described a fire mission, but I'll break it down and make it into a simple equation. So you have your FOs, which is the eyes of artillery. They're usually up there with the grunts or up on a hill somewhere. They see enemy, whether it's maneuver elements, a bivouac site, whatever it may be. They're going to see it, they're going to call it in. If it's a threat, they're going to call it into, again, my radio operator is going to give it into the FTC. Once they give it to the FTC, we go and we process that mission, get firing data for our gun line. We give the firing data to our gun line. Our gun line proceeds with the mission, putting rounds down range.
What's that like being out here in 29 Palms for any field op for over a week, being in a field environment, being out in the hot blazing day, working through long nights? What's that like?
It's definitely a test of your intestinal fortitude, that's for sure. I mean, one thing we're experiencing today is sleep deprivation for sure. We were firing last night till about 04. We started firing again until 06:30. So coming from me, like having a deployment to Iraq and Afghanistan, it definitely helps with the situation between the sun, the sleepless nights, everything out here in 29 Palms. It's the closest we could get to actual combat environment. So with a lot of our new Marines and the PFCs that come in, or Lance Corporals that come in, that only know backyard field ops or only know schoolhouse information, when they come out here, they really, this is their first step into a combat environment. As you can see, we're all flacked up. We're in combat right now, essentially. Again, it's the best training that we can possibly have between the heat and the sleep deprivation and multiple fire missions putting rounds down range.